Antarctica, the only continent with no native human population. The average temperature during its winter is minus 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Covered almost entirely by ice, it's home to 70% of the world's fresh water. It's a land no man owns, yet may hold the key to continuing life on Earth. Located in Antarctica is the aptly named White Desert, the planet's most remote and extreme luxury lodge.
The whole inspiration was Buzz Aldrin saying this place looked like the surface of the moon.
Co-founded by Patrick Woodhead, the company is a marriage of his entrepreneurial spirit and love of exploration.
I don't feel any sense of jeopardy here. I think it's just super serene and calm.
I was fortunate to meet Woodhead on a previous trip to one of his camps, and it became immediately evident we had to return for an episode.
The enthusiasm, no less, the second time.
With only 2 crew members and much less gear due to weight restrictions.
What we normally travel with is around 600 pounds, and I can bring 330 pounds.
We first stopped in Cape Town, South Africa, before a 5-hour flight to the ice.
Not Kansas anymore.
Join us for an 8-day Antarctic trek.
That's a hell of a drive.
With Patrick Woodhead. Right here.
Are you crazy to even think we'd go off there?
On In Depth.
You're like the most reckless person I know.
So I just spent about 20 minutes up with the pilot.
Okay.
He said 50-50 shot landing. Curious your thoughts?
Yeah, 50-50 is not great. I prefer better odds. I think that I'm quite confident the cloud base is going to rise because it's been improving. Every time we go in, there's a chance of being turned around and all the way back to Cape Town. There's a few nerves.
Fortunately for us, we had a smooth landing on the ice. After adding several layers to combat the elements, our first stop was Echo Base, one of the 3 camps Woodhead has built as part of White Desert, each holding a maximum of 12 guests.
The whole inspiration was Buzz Aldrin saying this place looked like the surface of the moon. We went for hyper-modern big windows, as if you're in a spaceship.
Right.
Because this landscape is so otherworldly, it kind of gives you this idea you're off planet.
And you have them all on sleds.
Yeah. Well, we have to have them on sleds because if you put anything on the ground in Antarctica, the wind creates so much snow accumulation that it gets buried in a storm, like almost immediately. So if you have it on a sled, the wind passes underneath and you don't get buried.
Explain the
Everyone
leaving
loves the
yourself
toilets,
situation.
huh? Yeah. One for pee, one for number 2s. Yeah. Everything has to come out of Antarctica. So these ones basically vacuum seal the human waste. Each single poo costs us $5.60.
How does that work?
By the time you got the foil, brought it into Antarctica, done, then shipped it all out, disposed of it responsibly, $5.60.
Why did you decide to start White Desert?
Okay, so White Desert started back in 2005. And I was, at that time, this was my second big expedition across Antarctica. And I mean, like all these things start, just crazy optimism with a sort of field of dreams. I'll build a camper, maybe some more will come. I had 3 clients the first year. It was probably the worst business plan ever devised.
I think you put the entire camp on the credit card. It was like a 17.5% interest rate. You remortgaged your house. At one point, I believe you had a buddy who was a lawyer at some law firm who takes you out to lunch. What does the friend say?
I just remember just like the sort of cold sort of logic of a lawyer that just, in bullet point format over lunch tells me exactly how awful the idea is and how many times it's going to fail. But that is red rag to a bull for someone like me in terms of like that whole, it can't be done. It's like, I'm going to go the opposite way. This is all completely bespoke. They've got to be incredibly light and durable. And then it's got to survive the winter as well. And we latch it down to the ice and then we leave and we don't see it for 8-9 months. In the early days, we lost a couple of pods in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like they literally, like Dorothy from Kansas, off into the air, and we spent about 2 years cleaning up the mess. Didn't find a wicked witch.
The process of actually figuring out the logistics entails what?
You figure it out by thinking very laterally, usually, and then being quite fearless with your execution of it. For instance, when we landed the Gulf Stream for the first time, we were sitting in the Gulf Stream like, I hope this is going to work. It's like you kind of do all the preparations, you do all the research, you do everything, but then at some moment you've got to land a jet at 200 miles an hour on an ice runway.
Since starting the business in 2005, Woodhead and his team have perfected the process. Each quadrant of the runway is thoroughly groomed and then brake tested with a decelerometer in the 24 hours leading up to every flight.
You just shout out the numbers when we hit 50, we brake, skid. Okay, now.
0.4.
We're basically the equivalent of like JFK on a wet day. So this runway is like a pilot's dream.
Pilots are just one position among the 115-person staff representing 17 different nationalities. Chefs treat guests to fine dining sourced from South Africa. And much like the runway, food storage techniques have been refined over the years.
I remember kind of navigating, probably by a U somewhere that we needed a freezer on ice, and it's like, it's Antarctica. You don't need a freezer, it's cold. So every morning I'd dig fresh, kind of graves for the boxes, dig them in, put snow on top. And then I think it all came to a head one morning when I woke up and the entire week's worth of food had just slid down the bank.
Oh no.
And that was a busy morning.
Excellent start to the trip. First, last night at dinner was awesome. What I realized I forgot was just, how enjoyable it is shooting the with a really good group of people. I would argue the dinners are almost as enjoyable as the adventures during the day.
So much to do.
And you guys have been buddies for how long?
Since he was 4. We got up to no good when we were kids. Having fun, blowing things up. We both went to schools we hated. And maybe another thing that brought us together.
You shouldn't be packing children off at like 7 years old to boarding school. It's like they should be with their
Your
family.
dad, when I was talking to him, he was adamant about how key boarding school was.
Well, look, it depends what
your
you want to
upbringing.
be. So if you want to be a polar explorer, it's genius because it like kills you emotionally inside. You're really like tenacious. Like all these qualities that are really important. You like, suffer hardship, all that sort of stuff. It's really good for crossing Antarctica. So this is an amazing ice tunnel that extends on the ice shelf. So these are formed by meltwater coming through and it carves through the ice, which is why you have these fantastic alien-style shapes that these ribs that come through. And then the ice is super old and compressed, so there's very little air bubbles inside the ice, which makes it very, very blue.
If you had to guess how old.
Tens of thousands of years old.
Yeah.
This just keeps going and keeps going.
You think we can make it out this way?
I don't know, let's try.
No, it's blocked in the middle, they were saying.
Let's try.
Watch, this just shifts a couple feet in while we're here. Can you imagine that'd be the worst death ever?
Slowly getting compressed to death.
I don't even know, why does my mind go there?
Dude, I don't know, I wish it wouldn't.
How is it?
We can get through.
Woodhead wasn't always certain what direction to go, Feeling lost after college, the ancient history student took jobs as a ski instructor in Canada and then as a park ranger in Namibia. But he found purpose while exploring unclimbed mountains in Kyrgyzstan, which sent him on expeditions across the globe, including the Amazon and the Congo.
The pygmies are like something from legend, you know, and they're wearing like a literal loincloth, and they are using poison darts and poison arrows to go hunting each day in the forest. And it's just like, wow. And they would smoke a lot of weed, and then we would charge off into the forest with poison weaponry. It was, I mean, what could go wrong?
How about getting bit by a piranha?
Oh, my favorite story, yeah. Oh.
Genuinely?
Yeah, it's like I've got to show my children that I'm a, you know, macho hero, and I've got a piranha bite. I think that's why I like polar explorations, because there's nothing here to bite you or eat you or try and kill you.
So what happens when this collapses?
Look, it'll happen real fast. It's literally, it is like being in another planet. I mean, how alien is that? First time I came in here, there was a layer of ice, and the guys were like, "What's it like? What's it like?" And I was like, "Hold on. I'm just trying to take stock of my surroundings." And then the layer of ice that I was lying on collapsed, and they thought the whole ceiling had collapsed on me. Oh. And so there's a huge noise, like, and they were all like, "Oh my God, he's just been killed." And meanwhile, I was there going like, "Is anything else gonna break?" So they were like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" But I wasn't speaking because I was like, "Shut up."
Yeah.
And it was all fine.
How is this held up?
This is, we're underneath that huge ridge of snow and ice.
That people walk over.
That we drive over. But this is all formed by the stream. So when that lake breaks, the stream bursts through here and the water forms this huge cavern. Let's see how far this leads. You good?
Yep.
It's kind of therapeutic, the silence, feeling the air.
Feels just to me very ancient and very old. And just, as you say, there's not a breath of air circulating through here. There's just these timeless crystals. And you kind of feel the weight of the ice. It's so beautiful, but one touch and you break an ice crystal. It's a good synonym for the rest of the planet.
Hey, blindy.
Yeah, just look if you
Yeah,
want.
I'm kind of blind right now. My left eye's. I wore cool sunglasses instead of appropriate sunglasses, and TBD. I'm paying the price right now. My eyes won't stop watering. I'm in the prettiest place I've ever been, and I can't see it right now.
Already operating with a smaller crew than usual, we hit a snag on day 3, losing our director of photography, Seth, to snow blindness.
Do you think he's going to survive?
I'm not. It's dicey. It's dicey. He's on the edge of death or blindness. I'm not sure.
And burials are probably difficult out here with the...
We could give him a Viking burial, like a Viking.
Penguins.
Along with the regular sub-zero temps, wind and sun are very much dangers in Antarctica, but perhaps the most terrifying threat is what lies just under the surface.
So, tell me a little bit about how this comes to be.
We're on a glacier and it's very much moving. So this moves where we are about 27 meters a year. So you get these crevasses that open, and this is exactly what we're seeing here. But in Antarctica, the glaciers are so huge, so it creates these crevasses that can be hundreds and hundreds of feet deep.
Woodhead uses this crevasse to educate staff and tourists after his many harrowing encounters over the years, from his record-setting expeditions in Antarctica and Greenland to just outside camp.
One of the very first years we were operating in Antarctica, is a guy from Alaska, who was a high mountain guide, came and saw some wood had blown away from the camp. So, like the surface above us here, he just walked off to go pick up the wood, and he fell into a crevasse. And he fell about 60 foot down down, down, down. It was a much narrower crevasse than this, but he got wedged way down deep. He's got big head wounds, he's got these flaps of skin, there's blood all over the ice. So we get a rope around him and we start trying to hoist him out, you know, using a sort of an anchor point. And the hoisting is just basically like almost pulling him in two. And now like 5 hours has passed and the doctor's going like, we gotta get him out. This guy's, it doesn't matter whether he's gonna die. He's gonna die of hypothermia unless we get him out like soon. And one of the vehicles had this crane rig up thing that we used to like pull up fuel barrels. And we hooked him up onto this sort of thing. And if we rip his legs off, well, at least we get him out and we'll try and save him. And this wonderful guy called Steph Husson went down again. And he threw down an ice axe on a rope and he kept on throwing it underneath the guy's legs. And he's like, he's not gonna make it, we're not gonna do this. Let's do the unthinkable, let's rip him in two and do this. Steph screams in excitement and he's got his legs moving. He just got this movement in his legs after doing it like 50 times. And suddenly in that one moment, he twisted him round, the crane that we had him on hoisted up like slowly into the air. But it was like this whole episode of what can happen in these crazy places.
How are the eyes feeling?
Like nothing was ever wrong.
Yeah?
Which is a huge relief because I was concerned I ruined my eyes yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah. But,
Graham called it.
Yeah. Graham also told me I didn't need better sunglasses.
We flew within the continent several times on a much smaller plane than the Airbus to check out some of Woodhead's favorite hikes.
Good luck, Graham.
If it's too much, we can always go another way.
Well, you're gonna make me into the wind.
Nice.
I was trying to go slower to not show you up. Wow, that is stunning.
Every single view in Antarctica is a sight to behold.
Can I get that comment again?
The comment is that this place is so beautiful. Seth, the cameraman, doesn't make it look good. He sucks.
It's a far cry from where I grew up in Missouri, or the village Woodhead and his two sisters were raised in England. He credits his dad for why he became an adventurer, but his mom arguably shaped him just as much.
She was very willing to take risks and very hard. And I mean hard in a tough way. Like sitting on a sofa and watching TV, are you kidding me? That was like completely not allowed. You have to be on it, doing something, creating, being productive at any moment. So these are characteristics that have definitely distilled in me. And again, super useful if you want to be a polar explorer.
Your mom got sick, I think, when she was 62, brain cancer, passed away a few years later. What do you think going through that with her taught you?
Expeditions taught me that I was going to die quite early. You can die, like it's possible. It's going to happen, and I think that it can happen real suddenly. Or like my mother, it took 4 or 5 years, and she fought it again, tenacity, again, that sort of strength. I think the longest anyone had ever had her type of cancer was like 2 years, and she did like 4.5. But watching a slow deterioration of someone you love is just, even after waiting for 4.5 years for it to happen, it smacks you and it's a huge surprise.
What was involved with getting through that for you?
I think that it's just this unknown. You feel very lost and very at sea. She said to me the last time I blinked, I was 25 years old. And that's this wonderful fragility. It's so ephemeral life. It's such a little spark. And yet we wander around in our arrogance, feeling like it's going to last forever.
Seatbelts on for takeoffs, landings. If you're going to be moving around, just do it slow. No running back and forth. Other than that, sick bags in the back and enjoy.
This is about as what makes me tick as it gets. Getting in an aircraft, going to somewhere new, to search for a new camp. Yeah, in Antarctica.
Explorer and adventurer Patrick Woodhead has set up 3 different camps in Antarctica. There's Witchaway, Wolf's Fang, and Echo, where we stayed. But now he's on the hunt for a possible 4th site. A flight was followed by a several-hour trek to uncharted Antarctic territory.
This is, without question, one of the coolest things I've ever done. You know, it almost in a way looks like Yosemite and Arizona in the States, only way cooler, with snow, nobody around.
Even walking 1 mile in Antarctica is like walking 10 miles on like a normal hike, because you're either walking on ice or thick snow or this kind of terrain where it's like every step is thoughtful. It's exhausting.
Install an automated weather station. So basically this thing is going to feed back wind direction, wind speed, temperature, and then we're going to leave it here for like 4 or 5 months and then see what it says and see if our guesses are correct.
Is there something that comes to mind over the years of building camps that was like the worst example of what could go wrong?
Yeah, we had Witchaway Camp, we had 17 days before the Jordanian royal family were arriving. And we literally arrived in Antarctica with piles and piles of wood and fiberglass. And the team, with seriously high winds, we just had to work almost 24/7. Like we worked like 21-hour days. And when the Jordanians arrived, they, leant up against a wall and like there's wet paint all over their jacket from where we just like, everything was sort of happening simultaneously. And yeah, it's just like, I don't know, somehow you just make it work. I'm thinking if we go, see the shadow line? Just beneath the shadow line, a flat area there. Yeah. Because that would be your backdrop. And that's your front. The easiest thing to do is you just get a shipping container, you put a window in it and a door, and there's your thing. But what we want is something that is really the guest can experience the outside and constantly sort of be reconnected to that wilderness. You want people to just blow their socks off when they see that view.
Being in places like this affects you how?
It completely awakens me. Just being humbled by vast peaks, and everywhere I'm looking, I'm just staring in awe. And it's just like, it's impossible not to feel alive.
What's your guess as to how many people have actually been here?
Like, so few. 10 people a year.
So we've hiked up a bit of ways from where you think there's opportunity to put a camp. How long before you have a built-out camp here that's comparable to an Echo or a Witchaway?
Well, I think the first step is that we're just doing a recce right now. So next step is then how we do the environmental permits, how we make sure it all fits together. But I would like to do it in 2 years, be operational.
I mean, you gotta run like hell to pull that off, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm kind of an impatient person.
As I understand it, from like 2015 to 2020, your family was like reasonably concerned for you because of the extent to which you were working.
I'd wake up every night at 2 a.m. and work till 5 a.m. That was just standard. And then the kids would come in at like 6 a.m. and off you go to work again, repeat. I think every entrepreneur has that, where you're sweating bullets because at 2 a.m., you don't have the money to pay the payroll or the whatever the hell it is. So I think that's part of and function of being an entrepreneur. Secondly, inherently what is happening out here is high stress. Like the weather patterns change, blizzards hit, and then we've got really rich, demanding clients that to fuse into that. What I didn't like about that period of my life particularly was how much work took me away from the rest of life. Do you know what I mean? It's like work absorbed so much of my soul that everything else started to get lost in that.
What was the moment where you felt like you could take a breath for the first time?
Only recently, like only in the last sort of, say, 6-8 months. I said, look, I don't care if the bottom line doesn't matter anymore. I'm going to just spend $1 million on new stuff. And then suddenly, like, I literally went to a chiropractor once and he kind of like went, and my whole body went, and I hadn't breathed properly. And that moment was just like, Jesus, I will not let my kids kind of like, you know, be left alone. And I don't want them to remember a sort of tired, gaunt, like graying, slightly snappy guy. I want them to remember all the fun stuff of like going yesterday into the mountains and how alive I felt. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what I want to take my kids on.
How has your risk appetite changed since having kids?
To be away for 3 months was nothing. It was fine. It was no big deal. Now, if I'm away for 3 weeks, you know, I really miss my kids. And then absolutely you have something parental very much jarring in the back of your head when you're about to jump off the thing or to do something. It's just like, yeah, you got kids now, you got responsibilities.
That's a hell of a drop.
This is a real drop. Try and favor the right-hand side. These holes that we're using to climb on just take hundreds of years to create. I love it up here. It's like a really soulful place. Like, talk about getting perspective. It's just like, come up here by yourself, you look at this view. It's like the privilege to be alone up here and to just check it all out is, it's wild.
Woodhead's loner mentality was molded from his time at boarding school, where he was hardened by the unique environment. Earlier in our trip, he explained that it equipped him perfectly to be a polar explorer, and I thought it was an interesting topic to examine a little further.
How has being at boarding school and teaching you to kind of bury your feelings in, you think impacted you long term?
I think going to school very, very young like that, to a boarding school, means you don't hang around with your family, with your parents, and learn a lot about, you know, conflict resolution in a positive way and how grown-ups can coexist. So I think that unwinding that in my own family was definitely, took some learning.
What were the situations that kind of forced you to learn to unwind that?
Well, I mean, culminating in a divorce by not... So I say that glibly, but I mean, as an example, I think a lot of the people I hire here and a lot of and myself are very good in a crisis. So that's great if there's a crisis. It's not amazing if, like, you're in ordinary life and your partner says, shall we have chicken or fish tonight? And you go deep down in your soul, like, I don't care either way. And then you don't respond. The house doesn't always need to be on fire for you to give it, you know, like, and that's been a really wonderful transition. I really mean that. And before it was slightly lip service, or I kind of like, yeah, you know, and I pretend to care, quite good at pretending to care. And now I think it's wonderful, because that's how relationships are formed, of actually really deeply caring.
What do you think you learned about yourself going through divorce?
Well, look, divorces is never pretty. I think I had on a 10 is bad and 1 is just. I think I was on a 1. So it's sad. There's a lot of sadness involved with being with someone for a very long period of time and then that falling to pieces. It's a deeply sad experience, and I think that it was incredibly important actually for Robin and I to make sure that the children didn't feel that.
I understand the divorce or the period around it was a time you kind of had to be talked off the ledge from selling this amazing place that you've built. Why?
I was emotionally spent. How do you then give to other people and be a leader if you're actually feeling pretty bankrupt inside? Feels like being a fraud. You know, if you're trying to inspire all these people that work for you, and actually inside you're just hating life, and it's tough. at some stages in life, it all feels too much.
And it was one you were running with your ex at the time.
Yeah, which is another fantastic complication. So I think that, no, Robin and I did it well. A really thing well.
This is the last land of Antarctica.
This is the last land where we are of Antarctica, and then absolutely that extends for another 90 kilometers of ice that is over the sea, but it's stuck to the landmass. And the whole thing about climate change is that if those things break off, they can float off into the sea, and then they melt and sea levels rise.
Right.
Like, they're huge. No, I mean, like titanically, vastly, enormously big.
Talk about how far these have moved over the duration of you having built White Desert.
I mean, it's very hard for us to tell exactly, because it's the scale of it so huge. But across this whole perimeter, absolutely, and it's real. It's real. I mean, it baffles me when people just, because it's inconvenient and they can't be asked to change.
Folks that have worked here for many years comment on how they've noticed the weather changing.
The weather, I think, part of it is having extreme weather events. So, like a couple of years ago, we had 6 full hurricanes, which was very unusual. We had fog on our runway, and we had humid air. Now, this is a desert. We shouldn't be getting fog here. This is the bit that a lot of people don't understand, is that Antarctica is literally the litmus test of the planet. And the reason why all the climate researchers are here is because this is where it's all happening, here in the North Pole.
Woodhead's company, White Desert, dedicates 50% of its logistics to transporting scientists to their bases. There are a total of 70 permanent research stations on the continent as countries work together to understand one of Earth's biggest concerns.
The Antarctic Treaty is up for renewal 2042. If you don't mind, explain what that is and why it's vital it be upheld.
The Antarctic Treaty is like it reads a little bit like a sort of a non-proliferation nuclear pact, basically. And what it is lots of different nations have all signed up together to say that they're not going to own this land, so they're not going to recognize any land claims. So it ain't Russians, it ain't Americans, it ain't whatever, and no one's going to use this place for commercial use in terms of mining and mining resources. And basically to leave the place a preserve of science. Peace is a really big, there won't be conflict here, there won't be military here, is really important. And so really it preserves one of the 7 continents. And this, Antarctica is significantly bigger than America. I mean, it's huge, this place. And most people just sort of see the little fingers on a map and they just give Antarctica almost no mind whatsoever. But it's vast and it's utterly seismic to the rest of the planet.
There was an interesting Economist article recently, and I wanted to just read a few different quotes from it and get kind of your reaction. October 25th, an international court tasked with preserving marine life in Antarctica ended in acrimony as Russia and China vetoed every proposal. Your thoughts on all of that?
So the issue is that the Antarctic Treaty is obviously done by consensus, so everybody has to sign up to it. And so that is enormously difficult, especially when you've got, all the politics going on in the rest of the world. There's nations that are obviously have a very clear eye towards commercial fishing and to krill fishing and all sorts of stuff. So they don't want to protect marine areas and they don't want large areas to be off limits.
Interesting you mentioned krill, because the next excerpt was, climate change is giving fleets greater access to stocks of krill, the world's most underexploited fishery. And then Xi Jinping, China's president, has explicitly said his country should exploit Antarctica's resources.
Wow. I didn't know he'd actually explicitly said that. Yeah. I think it'll be very sad. I don't understand people who are just so prioritize the greed over the environment. There is a way of doing things sustainably. And, when cod stocks in the seas are left to rejuvenate and they're left in certain areas, they come back really quickly. It's sustainable rather than just killing everything. Go to the Mediterranean. There's nothing in that sea. It's all been fished out. And you see what humans then do. They decimate everything. And then it's just this a completely inert environment, and for that to happen in Antarctica would be seismic for the rest of the planet. I think that nationalism is a really proud and wonderful and super dangerous. And the super dangerous because it just always pits one person against another person, one nation against another. And what I've learned from having 17 different nationalities in the company here in Antarctica, in a place that no one owns, is that we benefit from it hugely. We're so much more diverse. So the fact that we can't still, as humans, with the internet where we're all connected, figure out that we have to save our whole planet. We have the mind and we have the brilliance to be able to do it. People need to have a far more global outlook. Stop looking inwards, look across and be global and what is best for the planet. Antarctica is a shining example how different nations can all work together and actually, like, the humanity can work together as humans, not as a Frenchman, a German, an Englishman, or whatever it is. So, yeah, I think it is a really good example. You don't just stay on the rope if you don't want to.
Does that mean I might die today?
It's your last day. I said risk it all.
I was telling them, I'm like, if you knew you were going to go, Antarctica would be at least a
good story.
Right,
yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
You're scared of heights, aren't you?
Little scared.
Little scared. Just do that thing of not looking down.
Yeah.
That'd be really good advice. This is one of my favorite hikes because it's kind of got everything. You're on the ice, and then we take our crampons off, and then we're climbing, actually like properly climbing.
This legit is the best view I think we've had since we've been here.
Well, we've had to earn the view as well. We've just done a proper rock face in the wind, super exposed. There's about a 400-meter drop below us right now. I can already feel my mouth kind of going a bit numb, so I'm speaking.
Oh, even you.
Speaking a little bit like this because my mouth is going numb. Yeah. So we'll get back. We'll have a hot chocolate like dribble everywhere.
What are we about to do, Graham?
I think we're about to get hurt. I have not seen the drop yet, but I'm confident that it's going to be significant.
See where they are there?
I don't think it's high enough, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's where we're going to drop off with the skidoos. Not the skidoos, sorry, the sleds.
Yeah?
Yeah, we've got to just get the ropes first, and then just really when you sit down on it, just obviously that's the point, you don't want it to go.
Fall?
You can see how steep it is. I'm just kidding, we're going over this way. I just wanted to see the colour drain from your face. Are you crazy to even think we'd go off there?
We won't?
No.
Oh, really?
Wait, dude, that's a rappel, dude. Like, that's like vertical rappelling.
Yeah. Well, I didn't see it.
We're not going to go down there on a little baby toboggan. Are you... Like, where did you... Like, do you have no... You're like the most reckless person I know. I mean, what could go wrong? We're going to put an 80-kilo man on a tiny little toboggan meant for a child. Move yours away from mine. You look like you're going to, like, wipe into me. Like, go over there. Like, angle that way. Okay, you ready?
No.
Get your motor running.
Wait, so, and is the
Headed
goal
on
to
the
see...
highway, looking for adventure. Whatever comes your way. Damn.
Victory! I definitely tried to cheat, too. I guess I was just curious what it felt like to be the loser.
Well, I think it's the guy that wiped out first.
Our 8 days in Antarctica with Patrick Woodhead were without a doubt one of the greatest experiences of our lives.
Oh, you guys all utterly manned up is the expression in English, and you guys totally were brave as hell, and we put you through a few little bits, and you guys performed amazingly.
It was fascinating to see what the adventurer and entrepreneur has created, what it took to achieve his lofty goals, and eye-opening to learn about the wonders and importance of the Antarctic environment.
Thanks for having us out here.
Hey, what a pleasure. What a pleasure. Cheers, man.
Our greatest fear was that we could never possibly capture and do justice to these breathtaking views. But it's true, Antarctica is a place that needs to be seen to be believed.
Hey, Seth, what did you just say?
Well, you're making it awkward now, Graham.
Graham, you really make it awkward. We had a moment.
We had a little
and you
bit
just
of a moment,
ruined
and then
it.
you said, "What'd you say?"
Yeah.
I told him
like,
thank you for the experience. It's been the best experience of my life.
Could you mumble that while not looking at me?
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. It was really good. Cheers. Okay, bye.